The wind howled like a wild beast as 12-year-old Emma Morrison pulled her thin coat tighter around her small frame. Snow whipped across the empty highway, creating a wall of white that made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Her boots, already soaked through from the knee-deep snow, crunched with each determined step she took down the desolate road. Emma had been walking for over an hour now, and her fingers had gone numb inside her worn mittens. The cold bit at her cheeks, turning them bright red, but she kept moving forward. She had to. There was no other choice. Earlier that morning, Emma's mother, Sarah Morrison, had collapsed in their small trailer home on the outskirts of Millfield, a tiny farming community in rural Montana. Sarah had been sick for weeks, but they couldn't afford to see a doctor. The medical bills from her father's accident 2 years ago had drained their savings, and her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table and the heat on. When Sarah collapsed, gasping for air and clutching her chest, Emma knew she couldn't wait any longer. The old rotary phone in their kitchen had been disconnected months ago when they couldn't pay the bill. Their closest neighbor lived 3 miles away, but the Hendersons had left for their winter vacation in Arizona just last week. The nearest town with a hospital was Millfield, 6 miles down the highway. Emma had tried to wake her mother, shaking her gently at first, then more urgently. Sarah's breathing was shallow and labored, and her skin felt cold and clammy to the touch. Emma had seen her grandmother in a similar state before she passed away, and the memory filled her with terror. The blizzard had started during the night, and by morning, the roads were impassable for cars. Even if they had owned a vehicle that worked, which they didn't, Emma wouldn't have been able to drive through the storm. The snowplows wouldn't come out this far until the weather cleared, which could be days. Standing in their tiny kitchen, looking out at the wall of snow beyond their window, Emma made the only decision she could. She would walk to Millfield and get help for her mother. Emma had bundled up in every piece of warm clothing she owned. 2 pairs of socks, long underwear, jeans, a sweater, her winter coat, a knit hat, and her mittens. She had also grabbed the emergency flashlight from under the kitchen sink and stuffed it in her pocket, along with the $17 in crumpled bills she had been saving from her after-school job, helping Mrs. Patterson with her grocery shopping. Before leaving, Emma had covered her mother with every blanket in the house and left a glass of water and some crackers on the nightstand. She kissed her mother's forehead and whispered, "I'll be back with help, Mama. Just hold on." The first mile had been the hardest. Emma had to break trail through snow that came up to her thighs in some places. The wind seemed to push against her from every direction, and more than once she stumbled and fell face first into the snow. Each time, she picked herself up, brushed off the snow, and kept walking. By the second mile, Emma had found a rhythm. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other, counting her steps to keep her mind occupied. The highway was completely deserted. Not a single car had passed since she started walking. The storm had shut down everything for miles around. Emma's stomach rumbled with hunger, but she ignored it. She had eaten a piece of toast for breakfast, but that seemed like hours ago now. The cold was making her body work harder, burning through energy faster than usual. Still, she pressed on. As she walked, Emma thought about her father. David Morrison had been a good man, a hard worker who had done construction jobs around the county to support his family. The accident that took his life had happened on a snowy day, much like this one. A scaffold had given way at a job site, and David had fallen 3 stories. The hospital bills from his 3-week stay in intensive care before he died had left Sarah and Emma drowning in debt. Emma pushed the painful memory away and focused on the task at hand. Her mother needed help, and she was the only one who could get it. The third mile brought new challenges. The snow was getting deeper, and the wind was picking up speed. Emma's legs ached from pushing through the heavy drifts, and her lungs burned from breathing the frigid air. Ice crystals had formed on her eyelashes, and she had to blink frequently to clear her vision. Several times, Emma considered turning back. The warm trailer, even with her sick mother, seemed infinitely appealing compared to the brutal conditions she was facing. But Each time the thought entered her mind, she remembered her mother's labored breathing and pushed forward. Emma began to talk to herself as she walked, a technique her father had taught her during difficult times. "You can do this, Emma," she said out loud, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. "Just keep moving, one step at a time. Mama needs you to be strong." The fourth mile was when Emma began to worry about frostbite. She couldn't feel her toes anymore, and her fingers were completely numb despite the mittens. She stopped periodically to wiggle her fingers and stamp her feet, trying to get circulation flowing. The breaks helped, but they also made starting again more difficult. During one of these stops, Emma noticed that the storm seemed to be getting worse rather than better. The snow was falling more heavily now, and visibility had decreased even further. She began to wonder if she had made a terrible mistake. What if she got lost? What if she froze to death out here on the highway? Then both she and her mother would be gone, and no one would know what had happened to them for days, maybe weeks. But Emma pushed those dark thoughts away. She pulled out the flashlight and checked the beam. Still strong. She estimated she had walked about 4 miles, which meant she was closer to Millfield than a home now. There was no point in turning back. The 5th mile tested Emma's resolve like nothing before. The cold had seeped into her bones, making every movement painful. Her wet boots squelched with each step, and she could feel blisters forming on her feet. The wind had picked up to what felt like gale force, and several times it nearly knocked her off her feet. Emma's thoughts began to wander, a sign that the cold was affecting her judgment. She found herself thinking about summer days, playing in the creek behind their trailer, her mother's laugh, the smell of pancakes on Sunday mornings. These pleasant memories helped distract her from the immediate discomfort, but they also made her walking more unsteady. It was during this mile that Emma first began to hallucinate. She thought she saw lights in the distance, heard the sound of car engines. Each time, she would hurry forward, hope surging in her chest, only to realize it was just her mind playing tricks on her. As Emma pushed into what she hoped was the final mile, her pace had slowed considerably. What had started as a determined march had become more of a shuffle. She was exhausted, cold beyond description, and beginning to feel drowsy, which she knew from health class was a dangerous sign of hypothermia. The snow continued to fall relentlessly, and Emma realized that her footprints behind her were already being filled in by the storm. If something happened to her out here, if she collapsed, no one would be able to find her until the spring thaw. Emma forced herself to keep moving, even as her body screamed for rest. She thought about her mother, alone and sick in their cold trailer. Sarah Morrison had sacrificed everything for her daughter after David's death, working 2 jobs, going without food so Emma could eat, staying up late to help with homework even when she was exhausted from work. "I won't let you down, Mama," Emma whispered into the wind. "I'm going to get help. I'm going to save you." Just as Emma felt like she couldn't take another step, when her legs felt like they would give out beneath her, she saw something that made her heart stop. Through the swirling snow, barely visible in the distance, she could make out the outline of buildings. Millfield was just ahead, but between Emma and the town, she could see something else. A figure on horseback moving toward her through the storm. As the rider got closer, Emma could see it was a man in a heavy coat and cowboy hat, sitting atop a large horse that seemed unbothered by the blizzard. Emma raised her arm and waved, using the last of her strength to call out. The rider had seen her and was approaching quickly. As he drew near, Emma could see the concern on his weathered face. "What in the world are you doing out here, child?" the man called out as he brought his horse to a stop beside her. Emma tried to speak, but her voice came out as barely more than a whisper. The cold had affected her more than she realized. She was shivering uncontrollably now, and her words came out in broken fragments. Mama, she's sick, need help." The man dismounted quickly and knelt beside Emma, his experienced eyes immediately recognizing the signs of severe cold exposure. Her lips were blue, her skin was pale, and she was clearly in the early stages of hypothermia. "I'm Tom Brennan," he said, his voice kind but firm. "I own the Double B Ranch, just outside town." "What's your name, sweetheart?" Emma. Emma Morrison, she managed to say through chattering teeth. Tom Brennan had lived in Montana his entire life. He had seen more blizzards than he could count, and he knew how dangerous they could be. What he had never seen was a child, alone and on foot, walking through one of the worst storms in recent memory. Emma, how far have you walked? Tom asked, already beginning to remove his own heavy coat. 6 miles from our trailer, Emma stammered. Tom's eyes widened in disbelief and admiration. 6 miles in these conditions would be challenging for an experienced adult. For a 12-year-old girl to attempt such a journey was both incredibly brave and incredibly dangerous. Emma, I won't let you do this, Tom said firmly as he wrapped his coat around her small frame. I won't let you take another step in this storm. Tom Brennan lifted Emma onto his horse with gentle but practiced hands, settling her in front of him where she could share his body heat. The massive gelding, a sturdy quarter horse named Buck, stood steady despite the howling wind and driving snow. Tom had trained Buck well over the years, and the horse seemed to understand the urgency of the situation. We're going to get you warmed up, and then we're going to help your mama, Tom said close to Emma's ear so she could hear him over the storm. But first, we need to make sure you don't freeze to death out here. Emma wanted to protest, to insist they go directly to get help for her mother, but she could barely speak. The cold had sapped more of her strength than she realized, and now that she had stopped moving, the full effects of her 6-mile journey through the blizzard were hitting her hard. Her entire body was shaking uncontrollably, and she felt drowsy and confused. Tom guided Buck toward his ranch, which was less than a quarter mile from where he had found Emma. He had been out checking on his livestock when he spotted the small figure struggling through the snow. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. No one would be foolish enough to be out walking in weather like this, especially not a child. The Doubleby Ranch had been in Tom's family for 3 generations. His grandfather had built the original homestead in 1923, and Tom had inherited it when his father passed away 15 years earlier. It was a working cattle ranch with over 2,000 acres of land and nearly 500 head of cattle. Tom lived alone now, his wife Margaret having passed away from cancer 5 years ago, and his 2 grown children living in cities far from Montana. As they approached the ranch house, Emma could see warm light glowing from the windows. The house was a large 2-story structure built from logs and stone, with a wide porch that wrapped around the front and sides. Smoke was rising from the chimney, promising warmth and comfort that Emma desperately needed. Tom brought Buck right up to the front porch and carefully lifted Emma down from the saddle. Her legs were so numb and weak that she could barely stand, so Tom scooped her up in his arms and carried her toward the front door. My horse, Emma mumbled, confused and disoriented from the cold. Buck will be fine, Tom assured her. He knows where the barn is, and he's tougher than both of us put together. Right now, you're the one who needs taking care of. Inside the house, warmth enveloped Emma like a physical embrace. The living room was spacious and comfortable, with a large stone fireplace where a fire crackled and danced. Tom set Emma down gently on the couch in front of the fire and immediately went to work. First things first, Tom said, his voice calm but efficient. We need to get you out of these wet clothes and into something warm and dry. Tom disappeared for a moment and returned with an armload of items. Thick wool socks, sweatpants, a heavy sweater, and several blankets. He also brought a first aid kit and a thermometer. There's a bathroom right down that hall, Tom said, pointing toward a doorway. Can you manage to change clothes by yourself? Or do you need help? Emma tried to stand, but found that her legs were still unsteady. The feeling was slowly returning to her extremities, and with it came a painful, tingling sensation. I think I can do it, Emma said, her voice stronger now, but still shaky. Good girl. Take your time, and call out if you need anything. I'm going to make some hot chocolate and call Dr. Peterson. He's the town doctor, and he'll know what to do about your mother. As Emma changed into the warm, dry clothes, She could hear Tom moving around the kitchen, talking on the telephone. The sweatpants were much too big for her small frame, and she had to roll up the sleeves of the sweater, but the wool felt wonderful against her skin. When Emma returned to the living room, Tom had prepared a mug of hot chocolate topped with marshmallows and a plate of sandwiches. The smell made Emma realize how hungry she was. She hadn't eaten anything since her small breakfast that morning, and the long walk through the storm had burned through what little energy she had. "Drink this slowly," Tom advised, handing her the mug. "Too much too fast might make you sick." As Emma sipped the hot chocolate, feeling the warmth spread through her body, Tom explained what he had learned from his phone call. "I spoke with Dr. Peterson, and he's getting ready to head out to your place with his medical bag. But he's going to need directions to find your trailer, especially in this weather." Emma provided detailed directions to their home, describing landmarks and the mailbox number. Tom wrote everything down carefully and called Dr. Peterson back with the information. "Now," Tom said, settling into a chair across from Emma, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened with your mother. The doctor will want to know her symptoms." Emma described how her mother had been feeling unwell for weeks, working despite being tired and short of breath. She told Tom about finding Sarah collapsed that morning, about her labored breathing and cold, clammy skin. Tom listened carefully, asking general questions to get more details. He had seen enough medical emergencies on the ranch to recognize that Emma's mother was likely having some kind of heart episode, possibly a heart attack. The symptoms Emma described were serious, and Tom was glad that Dr. Peterson was on his way. "You did the right thing, Emma," Tom said firmly. "Walking all that way to get help for your mother took incredible courage. Not many grown men would attempt what you just did." Emma felt tears welling up in her eyes for the first time since the crisis began. "What if I was too late? What if something happened while I was gone?" Tom moved to sit on the couch beside Emma, his weathered face kind and reassuring. "For what you've told me about your mother, she sounds like a strong woman. And Dr. Peterson is the best doctor in 3 counties. If anyone can help her, it's him." While they waited for news from Dr. Peterson, Tom learned more about Emma and her mother's situation. He was shocked to learn about their financial struggles, about how they had been living without a phone, about Sarah working 2 jobs to make ends meet. "What kind of work does your mother do?" Tom asked. "She cleans offices at night in Millfield, and during the day, she works at the diner on Main Street," Emma explained. "Sometimes she picks up extra hours doing laundry for people, but she's been too tired lately." Tom made mental notes as Emma talked. He was already forming plans to help this brave girl and her mother, but he kept those thoughts to himself for now. About an hour later, the telephone rang. Tom answered quickly, and Emma watched his face carefully for any sign of what the news might be. "Yes, doctor. I understand. How is she? Will she be all right?" Emma held her breath as Tom listened to the response. Good. And what about transportation? The roads are still impossible for an ambulance." Tom nodded as he listened, then looked over at Emma. "Dr. Peterson wants to talk to you, Emma. Your mother is awake, and she's asking for you." With shaking hands, Emma took the phone. Mama, are you okay?" Sarah Morrison's voice was weak, but clear. "Emma, sweetheart, I'm so sorry you had to walk all that way. Dr. Peterson told me what you did. I can't believe you made it through that storm. Are you going to be okay, Mama?" Emma asked, tears streaming down her face. "I'm going to be fine, baby. Dr. Peterson says I had what's called a mild heart attack, but he's given me some medicine, and I'm feeling much better. But, Emma, I need you to listen carefully. The roads are too dangerous for me to travel to the hospital right now, and Dr. Peterson thinks it's too dangerous for you to try to come home tonight." Emma's heart sank. She had walked all this way to help her mother, and now she couldn't even be with her. "Mr. Brennan has offered to let you stay at his ranch tonight," Sarah continued. "Dr. Peterson knows him well, and he says he's a good man who can be trusted. I want you to stay there where it's safe and warm, and tomorrow, when the storm passes, we'll figure out how to get together again." Tom took the phone back and spoke with both Dr. Peterson and Sarah Morrison working out the details. The doctor would stay with Sarah through the night to monitor her condition. And in the morning, if the weather cleared, they would arrange for Sarah to be transported to the hospital in Millfield for more comprehensive care. After the phone calls were finished, Tom showed Emma to a guest bedroom on the second floor. The room was cozy and warm, with a comfortable bed covered in a handmade quilt that Tom's wife Margaret had sewn years earlier. "There are extra blankets in the closet if you need them," Tom said, "and the bathroom is right across the hall. I'll be downstairs if you need anything at all. Don't hesitate to call out." As Tom turned to leave, Emma spoke up. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for helping us. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me." Tom paused in the doorway. "Emma, what you did today was extraordinary. You saved your mother's life by going for help. But promise me something. Promise me you'll never attempt anything that dangerous again without asking for help first." Emma nodded solemnly. "I promise." "Good girl. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a big day." As Emma settled into the comfortable bed, she thought about everything that had happened. This morning, she had been a scared 12-year-old girl watching her mother collapse. Tonight, she was safe and warm in a stranger's house, knowing that her mother was getting the medical care she needed. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the ranch house, Emma felt a sense of security she hadn't experienced in a long time. Tom Brennan was a good man. She could tell. There was something about his steady presence and kind eyes that reminded her of her father. Emma pulled the quilt up to her chin and listened to the wind howling around the house. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, she knew. Her mother would need ongoing medical care, and they still faced the financial problems that had led to this crisis in the first place. But tonight, for the first time in months, Emma fell asleep feeling like maybe, somehow, everything was going to be all right. Emma woke to the smell of bacon and coffee drifting up from the kitchen below. Sunlight streamed through the guest room window, and when she looked outside, she was amazed to see a world transformed. The storm had passed during the night, leaving behind a landscape covered in pristine white snow that sparkled like diamonds in the morning sun. She could hear Tom moving around downstairs, and the sounds of a working ranch coming to life outside. There was the distant lowing of cattle and the neighing of horses, sounds that Emma found comforting and peaceful. When Emma made her way downstairs, she found Tom in the kitchen, preparing what looked like enough breakfast for 4 people. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Emma. Sleep well?" "Yes, sir. Thank you." Emma felt shy in the morning light, aware again that she was in a stranger's home, wearing his clothes and accepting his hospitality. "Sit down and have some breakfast," Tom said, gesturing toward the kitchen table. "I called Dr. Peterson about an hour ago. Your mother had a comfortable night, and she's feeling much stronger this morning." Emma felt relief wash over her. "Can I see her today?" "Absolutely. I'm going to drive you over there as soon as we get some food in you," and the road crews finished plowing the main highway. Tom placed a plate in front of Emma loaded with scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, and hash browns. "But first, we need to talk about a few things." As Emma ate, Tom explained what Dr. Peterson had told him about her mother's condition. Sarah had indeed suffered a mild heart attack brought on by stress, overwork, and poor nutrition. She would need rest, medication, and regular medical monitoring. Most importantly, she couldn't continue working the demanding schedule that had led to her collapse. Dr. Peterson is arranging for your mother to spend a few days in the hospital in Millfield for observation and to get her medication adjusted properly, Tom said. After that, she'll need several weeks of rest before she can even think about returning to work. Emma's stomach nodded with worry. "But if she can't work, how will we pay for food and rent? And how will we pay for the hospital?" Tom poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down across from Emma. "That's what we need to talk about. I have a proposition for you and your mother, if you're interested in hearing it." Emma nodded, curious and hopeful. "I need help here at the ranch," Tom began. "Since my wife passed away, I've been managing everything by myself, and it's getting harder every year. I need someone to help with cooking, cleaning, bookkeeping, and general household management. The job would come with a salary, plus room, and board in the small house behind the main house where my foreman used to live before he retired. Emma's eyes widened. You want to hire my mother? I want to hire both of you, Tom clarified. Your mother for the household management, and you to help with lighter ranch chores after school and on weekends. Nothing dangerous or too strenuous, but there are always animals to feed, stalls to muck, equipment to maintain. I could use an extra pair of hands. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. You would let us live here? The foreman's house has 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and a living room. It's not fancy, but it's comfortable and warm. Most importantly, it would give your mother a chance to recover her health while earning a steady income. The work wouldn't be as strenuous as her current jobs, and the pay would be better than what she's making now. Tom went on to explain that the job would include health insurance benefits, which would cover Sarah's medical care and ongoing treatment. Emma would also be able to attend the school in Millfield, which was larger and better equipped than the one-room schoolhouse she currently attended. Why would you do this for us? Emma asked, overwhelmed by the generosity of the offer. Tom was quiet for a moment, looking out the kitchen window at the snow-covered pastures. 5 years ago, when my Margaret was dying, we didn't have family nearby to help us. Friends and neighbors rallied around us, bringing food, helping with the ranch work, sitting with Margaret when I had to take care of business. Without their help, I don't know how I would have made it through that time. He turned back to Emma, his eyes kind but serious. What you did yesterday, walking 6 miles through a blizzard to save your mother's life, showed me the kind of character you have. You and your mother are the kind of people I want to have around. Besides, he added with a smile, this old ranch house gets pretty lonely. It could use some life in it again. Emma felt tears welling up in her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude and relief rather than fear and worry. I think my mother would like that very much, she said softly. An hour later, Tom's truck crunched through the snow as they made their way toward Emma's trailer home, where Dr. Peterson was still caring for Sarah. The road crews had done their job well, and the main highway was clear and passable. When they arrived at the modest trailer, Emma ran inside to embrace her mother, who was sitting up in bed looking pale but alert. Dr. Peterson had worked through the night, monitoring Sarah's vital signs and adjusting her medication. He looked tired but satisfied with his patient's progress. She's going to make a full recovery, the doctor told Tom and Emma, but she needs to make some serious changes to her lifestyle. No more working 2 jobs, no more skipping meals, and no more going without medical care when she feels unwell. Tom then presented his job offer to Sarah Morrison, explaining the position, the benefits, and the living arrangements. Sarah listened in amazement, occasionally glancing at Emma, as if to make sure this wasn't some kind of dream. Mr. Brennan, Sarah said when he finished, I don't know what to say. This is more kindness than Emma, and I have experienced in years. Are you sure about this? We're essentially strangers to you. After what your daughter did yesterday, you're not strangers anymore, Tom replied. Anyone who raises a child with that kind of courage and determination is someone I want to know better. Dr. Peterson supported Tom's offer enthusiastically. Sarah, this could be exactly what you need to get your health back on track. The stress of your current situation isn't helping your heart condition. A stable job with good benefits and less physical strain would be ideal for your recovery. Sarah looked around the small trailer that had been her home for the past 2 years. It had been a place of struggle and hardship where she had worried constantly about money and Emma's future. The idea of leaving it behind for a new start felt both exciting and terrifying. Can I have some time to think about it? Sarah asked. Of course, Tom said, but don't take too long. I'd like to get you moved in and settled before you start your hospital stay. That way, when you're discharged, you'll have a comfortable place to recover. Over the next few days, Tom helped Emma and Sarah pack their belongings and prepare for the move. It didn't take long, as they had few possessions. Most of their furniture belonged to the trailer's owner, so they mainly packed clothes, personal items, and a few treasured mementos. Tom also spent time getting to know both Emma and Sarah better. He learned about Emma's interests in school, her love of reading, and her natural aptitude with animals. Sarah impressed him with her intelligence, work ethic, and the obvious love she had for her daughter. The foreman's house proved to be perfect for their needs. It was larger than their trailer, with big windows that let in plenty of natural light, and a wood-burning stove that kept the entire space cozy and warm. Emma's bedroom had a view of the pastures where Tom's horses grazed, and Sarah's room was quiet and peaceful, perfect for recovery. On Sarah's first day in the hospital, Tom drove Emma to visit her after school. They found Sarah looking much better, with color in her cheeks and energy in her voice. The hospital's cardiologist had confirmed Dr. Peterson's diagnosis and was pleased with Sarah's response to treatment. "The medication is already helping," Sarah told them. "I feel more like myself than I have in months. And the nurses here have been so kind. They're teaching me about nutrition and exercise routines that will help keep my heart healthy." Emma spent the evening reading to her mother from a book she had borrowed from the school library. It was the first time in years that she had been able to sit quietly with her mother without worrying about bills or work schedules. When visiting hours ended and it was time to leave, Sarah took Tom's hand. "Mr. Brennan, I can never repay you for what you've done for us, but I promise you won't regret giving us this chance. Emma and I will work hard to earn our place here." "Sarah," Tom said gently, "you and Emma aren't employees who need to earn your place. You're part of the ranch family now. That's how it works out here. We take care of our own." Over the following weeks, as Sarah recovered and began her new job duties, the arrangement proved beneficial for everyone involved. Sarah's natural organizational skills and attention to detail made the ranch's business operations more efficient than they had been in years. She computerized Tom's record-keeping system, streamlined the ordering of supplies, and brought a woman's touch to the house that had been missing. Emma threw herself into her ranch chores with enthusiasm. She had a natural affinity for the animals, and Tom began teaching her about cattle management, horse care, and the various aspects of running a working ranch. Her grades at the new school improved dramatically, and she made friends quickly among her classmates. Most importantly, the constant stress and worry that had dominated both Emma's and Sarah's lives began to fade. For the first time since David Morrison's death, they felt secure and hopeful about the future. 6 months after that snowy February day, when Emma had walked 6 miles through a blizzard, Tom Brennan stood on his front porch watching Emma help her mother hang laundry on the line behind the foreman's house. Sarah was laughing at something Emma had said, and the sound carried across the yard on the spring breeze. Tom smiled, thinking about how much had changed since that morning when he had found a half-frozen 12-year-old girl stumbling down the highway. He had thought he was rescuing her, but in many ways, Emma and Sarah had rescued him too. The ranch felt like a home again, filled with laughter and purpose. Emma looked up and saw Tom watching them. She waved enthusiastically, and Tom waved back. In that moment, he knew that his decision to stop Emma from taking another step in that blizzard had been one of the best choices of his life. The little girl who had battled a blizzard for 6 miles to save her mother had ended up saving them all.